This is Rabbi Klein from the Greater Miami Jewish Federation. This week we received the Aseret Dibrot, which are commonly called the Ten Commandments. Many people have argued that these Ten Commandments are the foundation for Western civilization. In fact, the two tablets have become sort of an icon in America and a cultural touching point. Yet, for such a fundamental document, I've encountered many people that actually have not really studied the Ten Commandments or could not even count them. In truth, the Torah does not call these 10 commandments, but rather Aseret Hadvarim, 10 utterances or 10 principles. In fact, we have 613 commandments. So, how can we look at these 10 commandments? In a sense, we can look at them as 10 principles, guiding principles, sort of as a constitution of sorts. Now, there have been many attempts in Jewish history to reduce Judaism into one principle. You might know the story of Hillel, where a convert came to him and said, "Teach me the entire Torah on one foot." And what did Hillel say? "Do not do unto others what you would not do unto yourselves." This is the essence of Torah, and the rest is commentary. Now go learn. That's an attempt to reduce the Torah to a principle. Much has been said that these 10 principles or 10 commandments were written on two tablets. Why didn't they just put them on one? And what was on each of these tablets? So the rabbinic tradition emerged that it must be that there were 5 on each of these tablets. The predominant view of the rabbis was that the first 5 had to do with Ben Adam LaMakom, relationships between God and human beings, and the second Ben Adam LaChavero, interpersonal commandments like do not murder, do not steal, etc. And this is important because all of them, both the religious and the interpersonal laws, are intertwined to teach us that the Torah does not distinguish ultimately between religious and moral law. They're a united entity. In some formulations, in fact, if you want to look at the two tablets, the tablets can be reduced to 2 themes. The first, to love the Lord your God, Ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha, like the Shema. And the second, love your neighbor as yourself, Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha. In fact, the rabbis of the Mishnah, Rabbi Meir, says that a person who learns Torah is beloved by God and beloved by man, brings joy to God, brings joy to man. That's one formulation of these 2 twin loves, love your neighbor and love God. Also in the Christian Gospels as well, Jesus says these are 2 dual loves are the foundations, and other ancient Jewish texts say the same thing. And this might parallel our 2 tablets, which have 5 on each side, one having to do with our obligations, and that's the way I would understand this, not so much love, but our obligations to God, and on the second tablet, our obligations to another created in God's image. The 2 are really intertwined. However, we have a challenge. Let's look at the first 5 commandments. Which is not like the other? The first one, belief in God. Have no other gods beside me. Do not take the name of God in vain. Observe the Sabbath and honor your parents. Where's the 5th one fit in? Honor your parents. Isn't that an interpersonal commandment or principle? Why would it be put on the first set of tablets? And there are many explanations for this, but I would like to share with you 3. The first one is from Masechet Kiddushin. It says that there are 3 entities involved in the creation of a person. First is the man, the woman, and of course, God. So through honoring your parents, by proxy, you are actually honoring God. In other words, in this world, your parents are a manifestation of God's creative spirit. Just like on the 4th commandment, which is the Sabbath, every week we have the Sabbath and we testify to God creating the universe. The 5th commandment is much more personal. By respecting and honoring your parents, you're giving a personal testimony that you also are created by God. Now, this is a very powerful way to think about honoring your parents throughout your life. Every moment that you honor them, you are recognizing God's creative mastery of the universe. And at the same time, the object of adoration and honor here is God via the parents. So I'd like to also give another explanation. And this is some an explanation that medieval philosophers, including the Barbanel, raise. We speak about generation to generation, midor lador. Our relationship with God, therefore, is mediated through our history and our traditions. We pass things on from one generation to the next. You want to know the truth? We say in the book of Deuteronomy, Shalavicha v'yedgecha, zekenecha yeviyomulach. Ask your elders, they will tell you. So to respect your parents, who are your teachers ultimately, is to respect tradition brought down from generation to generation. To respect our parents is to respect the Misorah, our traditions all the way back to Mount Sinai. Today, we have a very much a youth culture where the elderly and the previous generations are often neglected. This is a problem. When we talk about honoring your parents, we're saying we have to look at our traditions, and the parents are the repository of wisdom as well. And we honor that. But again, here the parents are respected not in terms of who they are, but what they represent. They represent the past, that we respect the past. Of course, that's a religious obligation. How can we observe the Torah if we don't know our traditions? So I'd like to finally share an idea that links the first with the fifth commandment, belief in God and honoring your parents. To be clear, we're talking here about parents in the theoretical sense and not parents in the real sense, some who may have not been nurturing or even abusive. This is a very sensitive topic that Jewish thinkers talk about a lot. I'd like to raise something that was written by Rabbi Yisachar Friend, a well-known teacher in Baltimore. He says the following about honoring your parents. It requires us to admit that we needed them, that we could not have done it ourselves. This is a difficult thing for the human ego. The ego would have us view ourselves as independent, self-sufficient, and invincible. We can bring ourselves to thank strangers who do small things for us now and then, because this does not really affect our egotistical self-image. But when it comes to parents, if we admit they did anything, we also have to admit that they did everything for us. Our egos do not allow us to say, I owe you everything. This is then the most difficult of mitzvot. In other words, honoring your parents, kibud av v'em, is an exercise in gratitude. And to truly be grateful is to admit we are not independent. We are actually dependent. And with your parents, they are the source of your entire life. Without them, you have no existence. You have no dreams. You have no goals. And honoring your parents is an expression of that. So a person who cannot express that, who believes that they are the center of the universe, they are a self-made individual, that they chart their own fate, this is a person that can never feel a true belief in God. Because to believe in God would force the person to realize how much he's indebted, how much he needs something outside of him or herself. I am the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt. That's the way the Ten Commandments begin. You were destitute. You were in pain. You were trapped. You were helpless. I am the Lord your God that took you out. That's how you got to be where you are. Your respect for me, God, is an expression of the gratitude you have for me. How do we train ultimately in this respect for God? Through one's parents. Someone who does not honor the gifts that the parents gave them, life, they won't be able to love God either. In this way, the fifth commandment is indeed a fundamental religious commandment as well, teaching us the fundamental religious value of gratitude and feeling indebted for all the blessings that we have. Wishing all of you Shabbat Shalom.